Mr. Secretary, ladies, gentlemen, thank you for coming this morning. The second hearing of the Senate Committee on Energy is hereby resumed. This is a hearing that has been called for the purpose of addressing the two resolutions introduced by Senate President Frank Drilon and myself, both directing to the Committee on Energy to conduct an inquiry in aid of legislation on the need to determine government options to alleviate the power shortage and to establish additional generating capacity to ensure the energy requirements of the country. Now, it is only this morning, Mr. Secretary, that we finally received at 7:30 the draft of the proposed joint resolution itself. Joint meaning the House and the Senate, titled Joint Resolution Authorizing the President of the Philippines to establish additional generating capacity pursuant to Section 71 of Republic Act 9136, otherwise known as the Electric Power Industry Reform Act of 2001, and for other purposes. So therefore we will not have time to analyze this, but anyway, we will use this opportunity to ask you to explain paragraph by paragraph, also for the benefits of all the stakeholders in this industry here, and we do want to make sure you all get copies of the proposed joint resolution. Anyway, for this morning, the chair would like to acknowledge for the record the presence of Secretary Carlos Jericho Petilla of the Department of Energy. Good morning. Chairperson Zenaida Cruz Ducot of the Energy Regulatory Commission, Maria Josefina Patricia Asirit, Commissioner of the ERC, Attorney Francis Saturnino I, Executive Director of the ERC, Mr. Mandy Ledesma of the PISAL. He cannot be with us today, but he has sent Mr. Elmer Cadanong, Acting Vice President for Asset Management. Mr. Cadanong, are you here? Yes, thank you. Mr. Rolando Bacani of the National Transmission Corporation, Mr. Heriberto Basic, Deputy Director of the NEA, National Electrification, Mr. Isidro Cacho Jr., Vice President Trading Operations of the PEMC. Where is Mel? She's not here today.
Yes, sir. We're having an market operations update in Bohol, so
all right.
I'll be representing her.
From the PEZA, Mr. Tereso Panga. Thank you. Representing the PIPA, Mr. Luis Miguel Aboitis. Representing First Gen, Mr. Victor Santos. Representing San Miguel Glower Power, Ms. Ellen Go. From TransAsia Oil and Energy, Mr. Alan Ascalon. Millennium Energy, Miguel Valencia. From KEPCO Ilihan, Mr. Wang Wayong. Mr. Wayong, I'd like to talk to you after the hearing. First, all right, thank you. From the National Grid Corporation, Attorney Ari Vergel Fabros. Mr. Fabros,
good morning, Your Honor.
Oh, good morning. And Mr. Raul Saludo. From the Meralco, Mr. Attorney Pamintuan. And from the Visayan Electric, Mr. Sebastian Lacson. Thank you for coming all the way from Cebu. From the PEPOA, Mr. Ranulfo Ocampo. Would you like to join us, Ran? Representing Pilipinas Shell, Mr. Ramon Del Rosario. Thank you. And Mr. Roberto Canapi. Is Mr. Canapi here? General Canapi. Why don't you come closer, General? Representing the Makati Business Club, Mr. Peter Perfecto. From the Cebu Chamber, Mr. Carlos Go. Thank you for coming. You came all the way from Cebu. Thank you. Is Mr. Pons of Apo Cement here? Is Miss Barbara Tan, President of Gothong Manufacturing here? Mr. Ernie Pantanco from MAP, the Management Association of the Philippines, and Mr. Felix Servino, convener of Observer, Bantay sa Bayad Kuryente. Mr. Corvino, are you here? Lumapit po kayo rito. Thank you. Now, some unfinished business. I requested information during our first hearing, September 25, and it seems to me that the committee secretary or the JCPC secretariat has not received most of the information that the committee asked for. For example, most of these were requested of the Department of Energy. So we asked for a list of power plants available with available capacity that you use as your base for determining your numbers. You know, we cannot just take it on faith that there's an 800 megawatt shortage. We want you to prove it. We have not received that. Is it forthcoming?
We will give it right away, Mr. Chair.
And then the running the peak demand chart starting from 2010. So we wanted a bar graph or line graph demonstrating that. We want that to backstop your projected growth rates in peak demand for the future years.
Mr. Chair, we will give all the balances before the end of the day, Mr. Chair.
Okay. Going back as far as possible, say 1970, do you have a historical growth pattern for the power industry, both on the demand side and in the supply side? I requested for that. And then the historical outages, I requested for that. We requested for that also.
We will give everything, Mr. Chair, before the end of the day.
Yeah,
all the details.
particularly in the last, since 2010, then.
We will also, Mr. Chair, if I may, we will also submit the most recent one up to end of September.
Most recent beginning when?
We'll backtrack 2000. The data that we're working on is 2012. We will update that up to September 2014.
Can you not go back to 2010?
We can also go back to
Yes,
2010.
would you do that, please? Okay. Then a list of companies with big self-generating capacity. Well, we've done our homework there also, so maybe we can compare notes, but your department should have that. Do you have that?
We have the list, Mr. Chair, and this is coming from ERC.
Yeah, but just the big companies first. These are the people you can get in touch with one phone call. Are you aware of who they are, Mr. Secretary?
Mr. Chair, we are. In fact, we're trying to set a meeting with the top 10 self-generating to see what are the what's the possibility of them joining the ILP and what their conditions are. We were actually set for a dinner meeting tonight. We've moved that because there is a congressional hearing right after this, and then we're setting that with SAPI tomorrow, if we can.
Yes, SAPI only has a total, where's it done? Yeah, more or less 400 megawatts, and they can't commit all of it, no? At saka may overlap naman kayo sa Meralco, di ba?
There's no overlap. There are more signing up, Mr. Chairman. In fact, the meeting tomorrow with DOE will include all those who are on the fence.
Give me your latest total.
117 waiting for the contract, another 70 that are validating their capacity, and another 50 that have to be convinced. So
290.
230, about 250, Mr. Chairman.
250. Then Meralco, is Meralco here? Yeah. Al, what's the latest count? Outside of SAPIA, so there's no overlap.
I'm not too sure, Senator, on the...
Okay, give us a low and give us a high. You know, we've been...
For Meralco, we're looking at committed already for 146.
146, yeah.
And then our rest as Empower has already signed up 142. So that's about 288 total.
288. All right. I know there's going to be some overlap, but I went through the list of groups, and I added their generating possibility or capacity. And just on the basis of the ERC list, the SM group has 151 megawatts. JG Summit has 123. This is what I've collected all of the mega malls and the Mall of Asia and added them all up north, EDSA. Ayala has 98. There's a group, United Pulp, which has a 61 megawatt capacity. Jollibee has 47. This is a combination of various establishments of Jollibee. Shell has 52. Will Shell confirm this? Shell is here today, no? Who's representing Shell? Mr. Canapi? Take us...
Thank you, Your Honor. We have a capacity of 20 megawatts, of which we can release about 10 to 12 only, sir.
All right. But you're in touch with Meralco on this, or Resa?
I'm sorry? Yes, we'll be in touch with Meralco. Yes, Your Honor.
Is the Resa here?
Your Honor.
Resa, okay. Then the Amcor group is 38 megawatts. San Miguel, this is way understated. I only found 28 megawatts, but then they're operating under so many subsidiaries that we're not familiar with all their names. And PLDT with only 24. But between those 9 names I named, Mr. Secretary, that's 622 megawatts already.
Mr. Chair, if I may, actually, let's just cite one example. SM, for example, because we've been trying to get them to participate, and they're the first participants actually since December. They were the ones who actually participated and dealt with Meralco. But in the end, out of 100 plus megawatts, they only signed up roughly around, I don't have the figures with me right now, but Meralco should be familiar with this, about 45 to 50 megawatts. And their dealings with Meralco, okay, I think Meralco can shed more light on why it's only less than 50 megawatts instead of having signed up over 100 megawatts.
Al, you want to answer that?
Mr. Chairman. That's true. We only have about 57.96 megawatts signed up, roughly 58 from SM. Some of it are actually operational concerns.
Would you like to come closer to the mic?
Some of it are actually operational concerns, so they'd rather keep some of the
What concerns? Operational?
operational concerns. That they'd rather keep the capacity just in case they need it, but they committed 58 for the ILP program.
See, that's where we have a miscommunication or a misunderstanding. We say, I need it for myself. Meaning what? They want it on standby.
Yes,
They
sir.
would not be actually using it.
Presumably, if they need it for their own operations, they would run it. But for them to commit the deloading for ILP, they committed 58 megawatts.
We're not asking them to, define deload so that we can, let's be more accurate. What does deloading mean?
They're willing to drop their load by the figure 58
In other
megawatts.
words, they turn off Meralco and they turn
Yes.
on their own plant.
That's right.
So what is the difference? Why will they keep their plant in reserve if they can turn it on and use it themselves? I mean, suppose Meralco arbitrarily cut them off. They'd have to start up anyway, right?
That's right. That's right, sir.
So perhaps we should explain to them, and I know because we've had other meetings, we should explain to them that, as one guy said, you're damned if you do, damned if you don't. Mabablackout tayo, so gagamitin mo rin yan. You know, it's a cycle. Pag hindi ka naman nag-contribute, baka magkaroon tayo ng blackout. Kayo rin madadamay dyan.
Yes, sir. If I
We're
may-
all in this together, or we hang separately.
We'll do that, Chair. If I may also clarify, these are various locations. This is
Yes,
not just
I
one
understand.
location. But we'll get back to them and see if we can get more
Yeah.
committed.
But
Mr. Chair.
you know, you talk with one person and he can commit. But I think it has to be explained. That's been what I've been discovering. People saying, "What are the rules? Will we get paid? How much will you pay us? What are the mechanics?" And it's not been properly explained to them. And when they understand, they say, okay kami dyan. And then it's the pricing, no? In Cebu, they were able to agree on 14 pesos. Here, some people are asking for 15 or 16. Okay lang, because you can offset, no, what is owed, what they would have paid Meralco, di ba? So that will be a net to the Filipino people, a net cost of about, to the consumer rather, a net cost of about 8 pesos, 9 pesos. Yes, Mr. Secretary.
Mr. Chair, we noticed on the list of SM Prima Holdings, okay, we noticed that on the participants, the 50 plus megawatts that participated, they actually focus on the newer gensets and the newer malls like Aura, Calamba, Baliwag. Pero yung mga luma, medyo yun ang hindi nila kinumit. I don't know if that's a criteria that they put upon themselves, but this is just an observation on the branches that actually participated.
Thank you, Mr. Secretary. You and I know that their malls are all over the place. So they all have standalone there. I don't think they'll have a second hand or a third hand in any of their malls that are in danger of breaking down if you start them up, because that's a standalone mall. It cannot be connected and fed by power from MOA, Mall of Asia, or so I think there's a misunderstanding there, and they're playing it safe. And again, this is because they lack the information. But again, this was successfully carried out in Cebu 2 or 3 times already. No, is Veco here?
Yeah, Mr. Chair, if I
Basti,
may, I'd like to give an example. Perhaps by virtue of this example, we can understand why sometimes the generation capacity and the ILP capacity may not be the same. I'll give the example of Apo Cement. Apo Cement have a 66 megawatt generating capacity in Naga City in Cebu, and they're only signed up with us for 23 megawatts, 21 or 23, I can't remember anymore, which is a third of the 66. And the reason is that whilst they may have 66 of generation, they only draw either 21 or 23 from VECO, and so we can only sign them up for that amount which they can deload. While it may be true that they could generate 66, they can only deload up to 23. So perhaps that could be one explanation why sometimes, on many occasions,
Question: were they using the balance for their own use?
they were using the balance for their own use,
So
but they
we
weren't.
cannot expect that because
Yes.
nandyan na.
Correct.
It's only what they were squeezing out of the Meralco grid that we can utilize.
Correct.
Diba? So maybe we can find out. Maybe that's also what SM is facing, and we understand that. But what I'm saying, Mr. Secretary, is that there's an incredible amount of megawattage available. The list shows 2,500 megawatts for Luzon. For where's that? For generating units above 3,169 megawatts from 1 megawatt and above. That's an incredible amount of kasi malalaki na yung 1 mega, no? That's a whole building. So this is what we've been asking. This is the information that we wanted to compare notes with you, so that we don't waste the resources of the country if we can undertake it through locally installed self-generating units. Now, in Cebu, Basti, what was the rate that you agreed you would?
Actually, the rates are is a formula which works out to around 14, about 13 to 14. Or we work it out as a premium, so a premium to the rate that the customer actually enjoys.
Now, so that the ordinary man in the street will understand us, it comes out to about 14 centavos per kilowatt hour.
About 14 pesos per kilowatt hour.
14 pesos.
Yes.
And you were charging, what was your grid rate there? About
So imagine that these types of customers could pay probably 7 pesos per kilowatt hour or 7.50.
So an increase of about 7 pesos per kilowatt hour for that peaking power that you were.
Correct. I mean, I could actually share some global numbers that are not kilowatt hour specific, but for period specific. Like when we had Yolanda, we used ILP a lot in November and December of 2013, and we were able to draw from ILP about almost 4 million kilowatt hours.
Give that to us in layman's terms. How many megawatt capacity?
Well, at the peak, we were able to because this is energy already. So in capacity,
Yeah, that's
at
why
the
I want you to translate
Sure.
it.
At the highest point in time, we were able to draw 45 megawatts from ILP, and the demand at that time was 414 megawatts. It's not the peak, but at that point in time, it was 414. So it's about.
But the 45 is effective.
Yes.
Did you not have a commitment of about 60
We
and
have
then somewhere on and off?
Correct. We have a commitment of 64.7 megawatts from all the customers. But again, since it's voluntary, when we call on certain customers and they can't, so we just go on to the next one. So we, out of the 64, at the highest point in time, we were able to get 45 megawatts from them, and that was the record, and that was when we needed it most in November of 2013.
So if I divide 64 into 415, what was your peak demand?
At that time, it was 414.
414. That gives us 15%.
Correct.
Exactly.
And we got 1145 is 11% of that demand. So yeah, there's 4% who.
And
who
your
couldn't.
effective was 45.
The effective at that point in time that we were able to get was 45 Actually, 45.35 to be
It's
exact.
11%.
Yeah, 11%.
Yeah, Mr. Secretary, Meralco can do no less, di ba? Well, are you bragging or complaining? 200, 200 out of peak demand of what? 5,000? 5,500? Out of capacity. Huh? 435. Out of peak demand of... You're about 5.5, no? Over 5,000. So 10% of that is 550. So
We're leaving. We're
you have to be better than Beco.
Mr. Chair, if I might just share, there are 3 times that we've called ILP this year. But actually, this was called an hour before red alert. We had 150 megawatts signed up. May 16, the first ILP that happened, we were able to get 52 megawatts. July 12, 88 megawatts, and then September 8, 67 megawatts out of the 115.
Yeah, but remember, this is a different situation
Yes.
where we're asking all those kind souls to be aware that we do have we're facing a shortage or we're facing possible brownouts in summer next year, and the others don't know the rules. They couldn't care less. They're really not into ILPs. But I think as we move forward, more and more people are saying, ganun lang ba? They to the guy in the villages who have their own self-generating sets, all we ask them to do is turn off your juice that you're taking from Meralco and turn on your gen sets. And I'm almost 100% sure that at least 80 to 90% of those who have gen sets will do that. Kasi 3 hours lang yan, say 11 to 2 and maybe 5 to 8. So, Mr. Secretary, I think it's really easy doing it, because I asked some friends of mine who had gen set. They said, if I ask you, say in March, April, and May, or we can warn you through the newspapers the day before if we really need you to turn on your gen set, so that you don't use the Meralco juice and then and deprive others of power. They all said yes, sure. Just let me know when. The day before, they just have to stock up with diesel, but they're very, very cooperative. I've never come across anybody who said no, except when he didn't understand. Paano yan? Paano mechanics yan? Yan, di ba? And Meralco would be able to attest to this. So, going down the list, Mr. Secretary, list of power plants expected to be online. We can cover that between, say, now and March 2015, and then between May 2015 and March the following year. There's been no submission also, Mr. Secretary.
Mr. Chair, we will also submit that before the end of the day. The only change from the last presentation we had is basically the DMCI 150 megawatts that's been confirmed. It's going to be delayed. That's going to be June already. We had
talking about South Luzon Power.
South Luzon Power.
Yeah, we're not counting that, Mr. Chair. Like now, tell us now, since we're talking about it, what are the new plants you expect to be on stream?
The biggest one is the TransAsia. They're actually commissioning
135.
135. The 151 unit of Calaca, the MCI, okay, is still on the first quarter of 2015. We're trying to verify that right now, which particular month of the first quarter is really going to come online, because all we have is a data saying first quarter, March most likely of 2015. Whether it is March 1 or March 31, we're trying to extract that information from them.
Anyway, between March 1 and March 15, you don't have, historically anyway, you don't have too much problems with power shortages. The chair would just like to know. There's the commissioning date and there's the operational date. How much power is generated during commissioning? And that's on-off also, no? Tinetesting yung planta. And I'm aware that, correct me if I'm wrong, huh? And anybody here correct me. I'm aware that the first unit of South Luzon Power, which is the DMCI, will only be commissioned in March. And it will take 6 months before it becomes operational. Am I correct, Miguel?
I was under the impression that they would start operating in March, but only the first unit.
That was the original plan. Commission in September, full operations in March.
Yeah.
Now I think it's moved back by 6 months. It becomes commissioning in March and full operation in September next year.
I actually texted Mr. Consonhito to find out. I'm
Yes.
waiting for reply. I'll let you know as soon
Would
as
you
he
let me know,
replies,
please? Yeah, that's it, Mr. Secretary. That seems to be out. We were counting on that, but then we have the 150 megawatts that Lito Santos is going to give us from up north.
Mr. Chair, that's the wind for Burgos.
November, hindi ba?
It will be coming in by November. Yes.
All right, that's commissioning,
Yes.
operational.
As long as there's wind, yes, it's commissioning, Mr. Chair.
Plenty of wind in Congress and the Senate.
We'll take all the wind, Mr. Senator.
But wait a minute, that's 150, and then you come up with the answer as long as there's wind. So how much can we depend on?
As far as
10,
we know,
20, 30 megawatts?
Mr. Chair, as far as I know, the wind regime in that area starts roughly around December, all the way to roughly March. So that's probably where we can depend. I would say about 70% maybe of the capacity during those months only, because those the wind regime is highest on those months.
Yes, but what is it drops? Not, it's not completely gone.
Average on an annual basis, Mr. Chair, is about 30%.
That's your capacity factor.
That is correct.
30.
Yes, roughly.
So would it be 20 during summer and 40 during winter?
It would be around 30, maybe, during April and May, and then it will
About
drop.
45 megawatt.
And then it could drop to
The equivalent of 45.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Santos. I have the historical production of hydros that was submitted by Aboitiz Power. Yeah, thank you for that. From National Grid. Is National Grid here? Yes. We asked for the available capacity of hydro plants for the last 5 years. Historical, yeah.
Sir, we were able to submit, sir, the required information last September 30, sir. This one, sir.
Would you have a copy with you?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Okay, sir.
Now, Mr. Secretary, let's turn to what you just submitted, because that is really the intention of the President to ask for power to commission or buy additional capacity. Would you like to walk us through the salient points of your proposed joint resolution, which I assume was prepared by the Department of Energy?
Yes, yes, Mr. Chair. If
So
can we flash?
You will take authorship of this, and I can pass it on to the members of the committee who are not here.
Yes,
Okay.
Mr. Chair. Can we flash the resolution, Mr. Chair, on the screen so that everybody will be can have a copy or can read the draft? Can you fit it to the? Yan. Okay. Mr. Chair, would you like me to go to this line by line, or can we go to the salient point, Mr. Chair? The salient point is actually on page
salient
2.
Points.
Okay.
Yes.
Can we move to the second page? Basically, on the hindi pa ito. Okay. The first option actually is optimizing options and capacity. And this is to ensure that objectives under this joint resolution are achieved. The combination of the options here under provided shall be resorted to the extent of 200 megawatts to 500 megawatts. And we're talking about the contracting of additional capacity. I will explain in a minute why it's a range rather than a fixed figure. And basically what this simply says is that the quantity to be contracted, okay, is contingent to the existing capacities that have been found to be reliable that will actually can be relied upon by 2015. In other words, we have a combination of so many things. We can give you, Mr. Chair, a copy of our own accounting of generating capacity that will come in 2015. This includes the Avion, this includes the Millennium, this basically includes what we feel are going to be 100% sure that's going to be there, including ILPs.
Well, Mike Valencia is here, no, Mike? So you commit that 100% will be online, except for the line constraint.
That's correct, Your Honor.
So that will be a net 54.
So far, that's the findings that we have on the line constraint, Mr. Chair.
So this is a problem that can be solved by NGCP. That's what you're saying.
We are hoping that NGCP
no,
can.
don't give us hope. Tell us who can solve the problem.
It's NGCP, Mr. Chair.
Because they have to
They have to
what?
put additional lines.
additional lines. Mr. Secretary, can you talk to NGCP?
We have been discussing,
Yeah.
Mr. Chair, and GCP has committed to actually make sure that 100 megawatts will be put in place.
Yeah, if it's a matter of money, Mike has plenty of money, so he'll pay for it. Thank you. Please go ahead.
So the contracting, Mr. Chair, basically, and the rental option, which is 1 and 2, basically is on the assumption that what's going to be contracted by the government is the balance of what is needed for 2015.
And what is that balance? Let's say this is going to be voted upon today. What's that balance today?
What we put in place is 900 megawatts. That's what we need for 2015. So far, what we have who signed up is roughly around 450 megawatts. However, we also have many other generating capacity that can be finalized within the next 2 weeks. And that includes the ILPs, the additional ILPs by RESA. SPPC has 30 megawatts at least that they can actually put in. We're just trying to get commitment from them that it's going to be up and running. So out of the 900, the 450 is there. What we're working on probably is another 300 megawatts,
All
more or
right.
less.
And we haven't even touched the body of the iceberg. This is only the tip of the iceberg because, Mr. Secretary, the cement plants have not been recruited, if there's a unless you have a better term. So, in Norsagaray and Pangasinan, there are cement plants that have sizable capacities. They draw power from the grid, don't they?
They do, and in fact, the bigger ILPs, Mr. Chair, we're trying to sit down with them and iron out what it takes for them to actually participate.
Yeah. And then Hanjin, Texas Instruments, the big locators in Clark and in Subic.
They're included, Mr. Chair, on our meetings.
They're already included in your 400?
Not yet on the accounting, but they're included in the meetings, that series of meetings that we're sitting down with them.
Then we're also looking at about 79 megawatts owned by government that are not registered with ERC. Okay, they've never registered. Maybe we should get them to register it already so it can be utilized.
It's actually about 79 megawatts, Mr. Chair, and we're trying to qualify which one can participate because, for example, in the case of the airport and the hospitals, we're trying to see if we can exclude them.
Yeah, I agree with you there. That needs a double backup. Yeah. But maybe the rest, if you can capture one half, that's another 40.
We're looking at 30 megawatts, Mr. Chair, based
30.
on the latest accounting.
Now, Kepco Ilian is here. Mr. Wayong? Yes.
Yes, Chairman.
You're rated at the plant that you are able to operate, which is going to be fed by biodiesel.
Yes.
Is derated to 450 megawatts.
Yes, Chairman. 450
Again,
megawatt.
for the record, would you tell us why? Because that's a loss of 150 megawatts to the grid.
As explained the last time,
yes,
the machine was designed with pure diesel oil, but we are using the biodiesel oil is different compost of the contents of the oil, then impacted to our combustion, the fluctuation. Then because of this restriction of the combustion fluctuation, we only can generate 450 megawatt with biodiesel oil.
All right. So therefore, what you are saying is that if you are allowed to use pure diesel, you can bring it back to 600 megawatt.
But also I explained the last time, because of the more than 10 years degradation of our machine, we cannot generate the 600 megawatt. But as of now, we cannot show how many megawatt capacity generation, but below the 600 megawatt.
It could be 575 or 550
we cannot,
or 525.
As of now, we cannot say sorry, though, but last time I say around 500 megawatt.
But that's too small.
In our estimation.
So you're only losing actually 50 megawatts because your dependable capacity has dropped from 600 to 500. That's what you're saying?
Sir?
Your installed capacity for that particular unit is rated at 600 megawatts.
Yes, sir. 600 megawatt.
What you are saying is that your dependable capacity, because of age, wear and tear, has now dropped to 500 megawatts.
Yes, yes, sir.
All right. So, we can count on an additional 50 megawatts.
Yes, sir. Because of the
if you are
biodiesel
allowed
oil.
to use pure diesel.
Yes, sir.
So I think, Mr. Secretary, either an exemption from the DNR or a quick amendment to the biofuels law will be able to take care of that additional 50 megawatts.
Yes, Mr. Chair. In fact, what we're trying to get from KEPCO is an exact, okay, rather than an estimate at this point on what they can actually produce beyond the 420 that they're producing right now. But as of the last conversation that we had with PISAM and KEPCO, they are willing to commit only after they actually test the unit using pure diesel. And the dates that they put in place was actually before February of 2015. We're trying to negotiate if we can do it earlier, because I think February 2015 is a bit too late for planning purposes. The last thing we want to happen is that they test on February and say, we can't increase it, it's still 420. So we need to know earlier than February, in fact within this year. That's the date we're trying to negotiate with them.
Yeah, but what's gonna hold you up? Why do you say, Mr. Wang, February?
For the testing with pure
Testing.
diesel oil, sir, then we are now stock the biodiesel oil in our storage tank. For using pure diesel oil, we needed to clean out all the biodiesel oil, also transport to reusable place by PISAM. It takes the many months for that, sir.
And so in the month of February, you'll start running biodiesel so that you empty your tanks.
Also for the testing biodiesel, the pure diesel oil also needed to coordinate the national grid to shut down the natural gas operation our unit. It is so complicated issues also, sir.
Anyway, Shell is here, Mr. Del Rosario, Mr. Canapi, but I was able to get a commitment that Shell can supply the diesel, the pure diesel, in the quantities required by...
From an operations point of view, we can supply the diesel.
Yeah.
We just need to have the exemption on the pure usage of pure diesel.
Yes, that's the law, really.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So you have Shell assuring you of supply of pure diesel.
Yes, sir, Chairman. Regarding the supply of the pure diesel oil, then needed to coordinate the PISAM, the personnel.
Now, PISAM, since this is energy conversion agreement, it will be PISAM that will be ordering and paying for the diesel. Who is the PISAM representative here?
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
morning.
Yeah.
Yes, Mr. Chair. In fact, from our discussions, I think it will require around 60 million liters of pure diesel. But again, as mentioned by Mr. Wang Wayun, the bigger concern is the technical operation, because again, what we understand is before you can do that, they need at least 6 months to clean up the fuel as part of the
6 months to clean up?
Yes, Mr. Chair. That's a technical operation side.
Wait. This means they won't make it. Or are you already beginning to clean up the fuel now? Because right now you're using natural gas, Mr. Wang. Am I correct?
Yes, sir. We are using the natural gas.
So when will you start with the cleanup? The cleanup, as Elmer...
Not yet settled to clean up our tank between the KELCO and PISAM and NPC. But if we settle these issues, then we can start clean up our biodiesel oil around 1.5 months, just starting to completion. Without any
you only have
contract
enough
period
biodiesel there to run your plant, I think, for 30 days, no? Or no, less, 1 week? How much supply do you have? Do you keep in stock in your tanks? How long will it last you?
As of now, sir.
Your tanks are limited, right? You don't have a huge tank.
Our full capacity is 30 million liters. Then it's good for the around 10 days for
10
the
days.
600 megawatt, sir.
Yeah. So it'll take you only 10 days to use up to use up the biodiesel that is currently stored in your tanks. Correct?
As of now, we are stocked 8 million liters, sir.
What?
Not full capacity. 8 million.
8 million.
Yes.
So it's not fully stocked.
Yes, yes.
So it will only take you about 3 or 4 days to run that. And
Yes, sir.
and
I think so,
consume
sir.
it. All right. And then 1.5 weeks to clean up.
1.5 months is for the cleanup.
1.5 months.
Yes,
Okay,
without
so,
any contract.
So 2
and-
months, you'll be ready to run on pure diesel and be able to inform the committee what your actual...
Without yes, sir. Without any contract period and mobilization, just starting to completion, around 1.5 months clean out.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Wang.
Thank you, sir.
Would you like to continue, Mr. Secretary?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Basically, what we're saying here on the item number 1 is simply to optimize the capacities and options that we have here. And the options are basically, and that's item number 2, is renting and purchasing. On the condition that, again, we're only going to do that for the balance, okay, that is needed, that is not covered by committed capacities and ILPs who have participated at that particular time. In other words, Mr. Chair, if the requirements are hit at that particular time, we hit that particular level that is needed, then there is no need really to actually purchase and rent.
Mr. Secretary, we cannot have this rolling target. I mean, as of today, we know, you know more or less what we have and what we will be lacking. It's not going to change substantially in the next 1 month to 2 months, for goodness sake. Now, you started with announcing that we had a shortage of 200 megawatts, then it went to 400, then it went to 600, and now you say it's 900. We'd like you to justify that to the committee. Given that you can't just lose another 700 megawatts in 1 month. So how did we lose it, and where did we lose it, and why was it not included in the original calculation?
Yes, Mr. Chair. Actually, on the projection, okay, we have 3 projections. Okay, the first projection that we had was actually 600 megawatts.
Mr. Secretary, you have not laid the basis for how you got to 600 megawatts. Ayan pong hinihingi namin sa inyo. Lay the basis. You can say, we have all these plants, they total so much, these guys are undependable, so we're removing them from our equation, etc. But we're not just going to accept that it's 600 megawatts.
We will give you, Mr. Chair, a projection. I don't know if you want the historical or you want the latest one that we came up with.
Both.
Okay.
Historical and the latest one, whatever that may mean.
Okay. We will submit to you before the end of the day, okay, the table and detailed table of how we came up with the 600 originally, why it became 800 because of the Pag-asa pronouncement on mild El Nino, and recently the 900 because the MCI was cut out from the committed capacity that will come in on March 2015.
Okay. So at the end of the day.
End of the day, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Now, please continue with your presentation on the salient parts of the proposed joint resolution.
On the salient point really says that the purchase and rental at this point is basically based on what is our projected shortfall, what are the mitigating factors that were put in place, and I've actually put a deadline, Mr. Chair, before. It's the same group here that I've actually met, most of them. And I said that we cannot have an amorphous date. So I set August 31 as the date for all participants on ILP who want to participate, that's a cut-off date that I put in place. And also for the likes of Millennium, for example, because I asked them, you need to tell me whether you're going to sign up or not, or you're going online on 2015 or not. I've set a deadline of August 31. That actually moved because there were some requests to end of September. Okay. Aside from the fact that the government does not really have the authority at this point, and that was September 30, sinabi namin na perhaps we can actually still work on other options, because for as long as the government does not have that authority to actually purchase, okay, we will to continue to work on other measures. So as of September 30, we put a deadline, and our accounting was about 450 megawatts. This is why it's kind of rolling, Mr. Chair, but unless we set a date at this point, we can agree on a date, but that's also dependent whether authority will be given to the government or not. Then we just work on the options without rental and purchase. The third one is ILP option. This is the same arrangement as the current ILP, but this time it's the government purchasing ILP rather than voluntary participation, bearing in mind that there are plants which have different needs. For example, we're trying to talk to Texas, for example, instrument. How can we ask you to participate? What are your conditions? If it's not the rate, what other factors can we put in place that PSAM can actually go on and purchase your capacity instead of signing up with Meralco? One of the things that we're actually looking at, Mr. Chair, is optimizing the bigger capacities. For example, if Texas Instrument is 45 megawatts, but their load is only 30 megawatts, what we're trying to deal with right now with part of the discussion that we have is, can we connect you to the grid if you're not connected to the grid? Because now we can use the 45 megawatts instead of just using your current load, which is 30 megawatts. So for others, like Amcor, for example, they have 33 megawatts as well. Their load is definitely less than 33 megawatts. We've asked them, can you actually synchronize to the grid so that we can use maybe 30 megawatts? What will it take for them to actually synchronize to the grid? I'm just talking about the bigger ones, Mr. Chair. So this is one way of actually optimizing the generating capacity that are put in place. But they need special attention than just the normal ILP. And that's the reason why one of the options that we have is PSAM actually purchasing or negotiating with them the terms of their participating in the ILP. So that's one of the options. Of course, this can be a combination of all the options that were put in place. We're not sticking with just renting, purchasing, or PSAM purchasing ILPs, but basically it can be a combination.
So, in short, we're looking at 380 new, an existing 400. What was that, Ivana? 435. So we're looking already at 815. And there are several self-gen that have not even been approached or spoken with. I'm not even counting Ilihan's extra 50 megawatts. So I think we have sufficient power. Now let us let's revisit our numbers. Is Avion coming on time?
Mr. Chair, we committed April of 2015.
But
for commercial operation, we will likely start commissioning by March.
So that's 100?
That's about 100 megawatt.
Right. And when you say you will begin commissioning in March, that means you won't be out at full production.
Mr. Chair, the Malampaya is out on the 15th. We will commission using liquid fuel on March. And we will convert to natural gas once it's available in April.
By
for,
liquid fuel, are you talking about compressed natural gas or
liquid
condensate?
fuel, condensate,
Condensates.
naphtha, or diesel, whether diesel or biodiesel.
All right. So that's 100, Mr. Secretary. We agree. Puting Bato is 135. So that's 235. Millennium's 100. Hopefully, if NGCP will cooperate.
If we can guarantee that there won't be a duration, then it is 100 megawatts,
Yeah.
Mr. Chair.
And a net 35 from Burgos.
Less.
Dito?
From Burgos, Mr. Chair, we have 150
No,
megawatts.
but I'm only counting
Actual,
35.
yes, correct.
That's
That's roughly about 30% of 150, yes.
All right. So that's 370, Mr. Secretary. Do we agree on that? Are we?
Mr. Chair, can I briefly show you a list, the PowerPoint that we have? Okay, just a
Yeah.
list of our own accounting, because the Puting Bato, for example, the 135, that's actually netted out on the 900. That's actually part of the committed capacities. The capacities that we have here, basically the accounting, is this actually takes into consideration in the committed projects the 135 of TransAsia, the MCI 150 megawatts by March, and it also included already the wind and some of the biomasses that will be coming in online. These are on top of those committed capacities. In other words, these are capacities that was just born recently, as early as August. Ito lang pumasok. Before August, all the committed capacities were already taken into account in the shortfall of 2015.
Well, we have to use the same numbers, no? So you have the base, which we don't have a breakdown of, but you have the base, then you have the new, and in the new, I don't see Millennium's 100. Or
It's on the next page, Mr. Chair.
so there's a second page.
Yeah.
And you have the ILP at 101 lang.
This is as of last week, Mr. Chair. This is, we have 133 megawatts who have signed up, additional 71, this is based on Meralco submission, that are interested or are most likely to sign up, but they really have not signed up yet, but we counted them anyway. And then we have a factor of 50% efficiency for all these ILPs.
Then I don't, where's the Burgos wind?
The Burgos is already in the committed capacities that's netted out already, Mr. Chair, because these are projects that are in the outlook. These capacities in that we're displaying right now are only those that came in August onwards.
Why was Burgos already operating in August?
Not operating, Mr. Chair, but basically they've been clocked in already in our projection. The committed capacities registered with DOE and ERC were already taken into account in the 2015 shortfall.
And Puting Bato is not there.
Puting Bato is also already included in the outlook.
Then I need those things because otherwise we will be double counting.
We will provide you
But
before
I
the
mean,
end of the day.
Puting Bato is 135 and if you input it, if we go backwards and let's say you take your 8,700 megawatt peak demand earlier this year during summer, I'd like to know what went into that. And certainly Burgos was not there and Puting Bato was not there. So somehow we've lost, or I have lost Puting Bato and Burgos. So let's take summer, 8,700. What did you lose? Say you lost the 300 megawatts of Malaya, but that's never really been operating. And then what did you gain? So we put all the new plants that will be installed between May next year and May this year and March next year. That's what I need, and I need that in as one chunk, new, and then we can go to the ILPs. And I think we're looking easily at already 900 here and still moving. Now, can you give me that list then, so that we will be reading from the same page?
we'll give it to you before the end of the Mr. Chair. We will just do a little bit of reformatting on the outlook that we have to show the additional capacities that are coming in before 2015 based on the outlook. These are the committed, but these are already included in the outlook.
I will submit that we have to remove SLPGC Unit 1 because it won't be ready by. They'll probably be ready to be commissioned by March. So I'm willing to concede that they will not be.
We'll do that, Mr. Chair. We'll do an adjustment. But this, the Burgos Wind, for example, okay, we're only putting them. These are the rated capacities. The actual capacities that will come into play is not actually included there. For example, the 87 that's going to be in. I can't recall correctly what our figure is for Burgos Wind starting April, but I think it's on the vicinity of 20 plus megawatts rather than 87 megawatts.
20
plus megawatts. If I'm trying to get the, what we've actually done, Mr. Chair, is that based on north wind performance, okay, that's what we're using to actually project what all these windmills will produce by April, May, and June 2015.
All right. Now, what's the total then that you have so far? I have it at the bottom. I'm sorry. 520.
520 rated capacity, Mr. Chair.
Yeah. What can you depend on out of the 520? About 400?
We will, Mr. Chair, if I may, before the end of the day, we will include that on a month-to-month basis, what is dependable, because it all depends on the month. For example, we'll have to take out the 150 the MCI, but on the wind, it varies from month to month. So on the performance of wind on March, April, and May and June are actually different, their performances on a month-to-month basis.
But that, if you're talking about 30 megs, plus minus 15, di ba, Lito?
I think 30 megawatt, 35 is a good indicator for the months of December to March.
What about April, May?
The capacity factor goes down to the teens, maybe about 16 to 19%, Mr. Chairman.
So give that to us in megawatts. You mean you'll only produce about 12 megawatts?
On average, it could very well be. Could very well be in the very low 10 to 15 maybe.
You might produce that at the wrong time of the day when we don't need it.
Yeah, yeah, that's correct.
I think, Mr. Chair, if I recall correctly, okay, although I only glanced it at, once, there were times when actually on summer, the nighttime production is higher than the daytime production for wind.
So that's not of any particular use to us because we're really looking at covering the shortages that will be incurred during the peak periods of the day. So baka we can zero out already na lang the wind. No, and then it becomes a bonus, di ba? And so the same with Caparis-Pisan. Of course, they won't be commissioning their plant until I think March also, no? This is the Pagudpud plant of Ayala UPC.
This is December, the 81 megawatts is December. That's their commissioning.
The latest I heard is that's delayed. In any case, I'm sharing that with you. I'm not counting Caparis-Pisan. But still, I think we will have at least 300 new megawatts. Now, Mr. Secretary, also there is a plant that is underproducing. That's CBK. I believe that CBK can produce an extra 100 megawatts. Their charts show that they're producing 600, and that's a 725 megawatt pump storage plant.
As far as we're concerned, Mr. Chair, we've had this discussion with NGCP, and probably NGCP can shed light on this, on how to optimize, or if they've already considered optimizing CBK during summer, because every summer they actually optimize that. In fact, in 2014, we had weekly meetings with NGCP because of the plants coming down. We were on yellow alerts, red alerts several times, and we've asked them to actually optimize that. So, if I may, Mr. Chair, if NGCP can actually
Yes.
shed light on the optimization.
Please, Mr. Saludo.
The operations, sir, for the Kalayaan plants being a pump storage, so it's a cyclic, sir. So usually we get water up to the reservoir during weekends, then pump it down as a generator during weekdays. Then we need a certain elevation because based on the coordination with the Kalayaan, there's a certain elevation wherein they are able to generate 3 pumps to 4 pumps, a certain elevation wherein they're able to generate 2 to 3, and so on. So at the start of the week, we could usually generate maximum 3 to 4 pumps. But as the week goes by, it usually goes down, sir. So we again store up energy the following week, sir, over the weekend.
Would you like to submit to the committee a day-by-day capability? You're also pumping water up about 7 hours at night, no?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So then
We usually, sir,
your
pump it
cut-off at the top is 288?
280, 288, sir. 288.
288.
Yes, sir.
And I understand you can even increase it more, except that the resort owners start complaining that their beaches are getting flooded.
That's an issue.
So at 288, you can deliver the full 700 megawatt.
Yes, sir. Around 3 to 4 pumps,
capacity.
3 to 4 generators, sir. That's right, sir.
Why do you say 3 to 4 generators? I'm worried.
It depends, sir, on the actual what is needed by the grid. So we could actually pump it up to 4 if it is really needed. But
Yes.
because we're conserving water, we usually use only three generators, sir.
Yeah.
So that's how we.
But you have the
manage.
flexibility of actually, if I ask you, give us 700 from 11 o'clock to 2 o'clock every day, weekday, every weekday, you can safely do that.
As long as the elevation, sir, is sufficient, sir, we could do that, sir. The water elevation, sir.
No, that's what I'm saying. Take that into consideration. Why can you not keep the elevation at a sufficient level?
Actually, sir, in the evening, although we're pumping up water, the amount of water that is needed to generate is more than what we can pump up during the evening.
I understand that, but here I'm only asking you for 3 hours.
Yes, sir.
I'm not asking you to pump. Actually, you have the capability to let go of about 700 megawatts for 6 to 8 hours daily, di ba?
Yes, sir.
Ang tinatanong, hinihingi ko lang sa inyo, for those 3 hours, I need the 700 megawatts.
Yes, sir.
Pero 3 hours lang.
Yes, sir. It
Pwede?
is actually, sir, being nominated also by PISAL. But if needed, sir, we will try to work it out how we could have for the 3 hours, the 4 pumps to be running, sir, during weekdays, sir.
Can you prepare something
Yes, sir.
for the committee?
Yes, sir.
And I think I'll meet with Mr. Ikagawa tomorrow.
Okay, sir.
So can Mr. Ikagawa have those numbers already?
We'll try to talk with them, sir.
Thank you. Please continue, Mr. Secretary.
Mr. Chair, in addition lang, Mr. Chair, to a national grid, we've actually been talking to PISAM and National Grid if they can actually pump water now continuously, pero ang gamit naman is restricted. Okay, although they're using it for regulating power right now, if we can restrict them to regulating and just pump continuously, although at the same time, we are also constrained because there are times when we're actually on yellow alert, even at this point. In fact, last week, we were on yellow alert for 2 days. So in that case, we really have to use the Kalayaan as well.
You know, you're right there. The reason why I think you're limiting yourself to 7 hours a day is because of the cost. So you start using up juice at 11 o'clock from the grid and cut it off at 6 o'clock, di ba? Pinakamura yun eh. But yeah, if we lack water, you know, if you get compensated for it, start pumping at 9 o'clock at night after the peak load in Manila, then you can top up your dam, your reservoir.
We'll be talking, sir, with the Kalayaan, sir, on this.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah, Mr. Secretary, that's the most flexible plant, and they only need about 360 megawatts for reserve. So that's hindi ho namin kinukuha yan, 360, di ba? For operating reserve of NGCP. The rest can be sold commercially, but even the operating reserve, maybe NGCP will agree that on certain days it may be used also to cover whatever sudden shortfalls there might be in the grid. After all, that will already be operating reserve use, no? All right, please continue, Mr. Secretary.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The fifth item, okay, because the fourth item was actually ILP option, PISAM or government buying from ILP with all their conditions, including, because the ILP, Mr. Chair, usually runs when we have a red alert. So we're also looking into the fact that the bigger generating capacity that can be purchased by government through negotiation with large ILP participants, perhaps we can also use them for yellow alert and not just red alert, which will also mean that it's a longer running period for this engine. So we have to qualify which ones are actually agreeable to this arrangement. And that's why it's a one-on-one negotiation rather than a one-for-all negotiation. The fifth item is the terms of the generating capacity. This is simply saying that all this generating capacity, with the exception of those which we can negotiate with large ILP participants, they only run on yellow alert. Okay, actually the protocol for ILP is red alert. We're discussing with various stakeholders the implications if this can be made a yellow alert. The implication here is very simple. If it's imminent yellow alert when they run, then that means we need more ILP participants, because the ILP cannot sustain if they have a longer running period. The sixth item is basically, if you notice our additional committed capacities, okay, which were not taken into account into the outlook, we take cognizance of Millennium Energy, SPPC, Abion, and all these other plants that are coming in. They're actually coming in on all their deadlines are actually March 2015. In other words, it's too tight. Even Bawang is March 2015. It's too tight that we don't want this to be distracted by any other permitting problems. So one of the suggestions is if we can actually delay the permitting, okay, they operate first and then they comply later on after summer. That's a suggestion that we put in place.
Yeah, what about the LGUs? If the delay is caused by the LGUs, which in most cases it is, aside from ERC and DNR, you have no power to exempt
If
from permitting at the LGU level. The
At
mayor might not agree.
we will simply send our USECs in charge of negotiating with LGUs. But if we can actually take a big chunk out of the permitting that is within the control of the national government, then it would help a lot. And I think this is attested by the players themselves who've actually requested this.
All right. Well, we will study this, Mr. Secretary, and we'll have another hearing or technical working group meeting depending upon the wishes of the members of the committee. Now, did I miss out on anything I wanted to put on? Yeah, Veco, can you explain to the committee how you were able to pass on the cost, the premium that you offer the ILP participants during, say, the Yolanda shortage, and how you were able to recover that?
Yes, Mr. Chair. The ILP, as we know, it's for application nationwide. It's ERC approved, and they allow recovery via generation charge. And so that's what we do. For example, in November of 2013, for that 1 month period, we incurred a deloading compensation of around 10.8 million pesos, and we were able to include that in the generation charge in May of 2014, and this resulted in an additional of about 4 centavos per kilowatt hour for all our customers for that time. And the reason for the delay was just the capability of the customer to provide the appropriate BRR billing mechanisms and so on, but we could have done it actually in the subsequent month. So the 1.7 million kilowatt hours that we were able to draw resulted in about 4 centavos additional for all customers 7 months later in May of 2014.
But this was only included in 1 month's billing.
That's correct, sir.
So nabawi ninyo in 1 month
Yes.
what you had to commit to in premium payments for ILP
Yes.
during the Yolanda. Why didn't you ask for emergency powers?
No, I mean, you mean to be able to do it sooner, or no? I mean,
No, that's what.
oh, okay.
You know, I'm saying, Mr. Secretary, Cebu never asked for emergency powers. They just deal with it, and it's recovered in 1 month at a minimal cost. And then,
Mr. Chair, I'd like to point out that so massive was the shortfall in the Visayas at that time that ILP in the month of November was actually only able to cover 42% of the manual load dropping.
Yeah.
So all it did was really soften the blow for customers, but it did not eliminate brownouts. It just made less brownouts in Veco than it did in other areas.
no, we understand that Yolanda was something extraordinary, and of course, when it happens, you cannot just buy batteries, ever-ready batteries, and plug it into the system. But essentially, what we're impressed with is that you were able to get commitments up to 15%, which helped a lot of Cebuanos who would have gone without power for a longer period.
Sir, Mr. Chair, actually, these are commitments that we had since 2008 and 2009, and these commitments never expired or never died. So all we do is when we need the commitments, once again, with the help of local government and the chamber, Mr. Carlos Co is here from the chamber, and the participants, they're just latent generators who we just call on them, and they're happy with the compensation that the ERC granted via 2 different resolutions. And I mean, not happy to the sense that they're making money. I think this is a kind of solution that everyone loses a little bit, and so they're happy losing a little bit, and I guess for the sake of everyone.
And I think, Mr. Secretary, it's just a matter of explaining to all those people who have not yet signed up that we already have the rules, don't we? Wait. The ILP rules, because the other night I had a dinner with some of the big owners. I mean, big owners. I mean, these are guys with self-gen, and some of them said, we don't know the rules. We don't know the mechanics involved. And you know, of course, I know it's more complicated than what laymen like us are given to understand, because everybody had his own peculiar problem. Like Mega World has a peculiar problem, but it's just a matter of explaining and being able to work it out. And people have been very cooperative. You haven't gotten a real outright no, we're not going to participate. It's just that I have this problem. I don't understand how you can solve it, but if we talk, maybe we can find a way for us to just deload and use our own. Ganun lang naman yan eh. Meralcos
Yes. Yeah.
I would just like to recognize Ms. Cherry Javier representing Raymond Rosius of RESA. Cherry?
Mr.
Yes,
Chair, earlier Mr. Pandillo shared with you how the generating capacity that was already made available for the ILP, which we have called several times. And right now in our generation charge, for example, for September, there is a 0.0003 add-on, which is a compensation for the loaded kilowatt hours of ILP participants. This is in accordance with the rules of ERC. But as we have promised during the last hearing, we said we will get in touch with our subsidiary in Clark, and as well as to distribution utilities, Angeles, as well as Tarlac Electric, and they had several concerns about participating in the ILP, and which I would like to bring up because the participants are here. First is that they are directly connected to NGCP, so one concern is that will we be spared from the load dropping? And for example, Clark Electric has a load of 70. If it is able to sign up 30 megawatt, for example, for ILP, the issue again is the recovery. Because in the Meralco franchise area, I mean, it's 5.5 million customers. It's a substantial base from which you will recover the compensation. But for a small franchise, which has a big self-generating capacity, the recovery could be substantial if it is just limited to that particular distribution area. I think similar to Cavite Ecozone, which has also substantial self-gen facilities. So I think NGCP should come in all of these discussions with distribution utilities, with ecozones that are outside of the Meralco franchise. Cement plants, as earlier mentioned, NGCP is critical, whether through collection from all grid customers, possibly. I mean, these are things that will still have to be resolved. For the Meralco franchise, it is pretty much already is operational. Some of the protocols just have to be discussed, but these are not yet defined for areas that are outside of the Meralco franchise, especially those which are with substantial self-generating facilities as the ecozones. Thank you.
Thank you, Ivana. Yes, that is a question perhaps we should direct at the ERC, because based on your resolution number 8, series of 2010, you have automatically allowed distribution utility to collect from its customers. Understood. But the visor, which is the number below, the visor, no? Kakalimutan ko na yung geography ko eh. Yeah, the divisor, when it's very small, magiging punitive naman para sa customers. Is there any way we can level it, say, throughout Luzon? without going through a long process of hearing, can you already start thinking, all right, we can divide this throughout all the customers in Luzon?
Yes, Mr. Chair. The ERC is contemplating on amending the ILP guidelines to accommodate the issues on the implementation of the testable market. We can include this as part of the consultations so that this can already be addressed in the amendments to the ILP guidelines.
How long will it take you to come out with that?
Mr. Chair, we're just awaiting for the formal endorsement to the ERC of the RESA Meralco proposal for the ILP implementation and in the contestable customer, and then thereafter the ERC will initiate already rulemaking for the amendments to the ILP, and we can include the issue that was just raised by Ms. Ivana.
Okay. All right. Mr. Secretary, did you wish to add anything to the record?
Mr. Chair, siguro ano lang, while they're actually crafting a way of actually softening the impact of the smaller DUs, that is also one of the reasons why we also mentioned the government buying the ILPs for this to be put in WESM so that it will be up for grabs for those who need it rather than just those who are actually deloading themselves. So it's just an option. If this can be resolved by ERC, then perhaps also the ILPs who want to participate but are not within the Meralco franchise can actually take advantage of this ERC proposal.
Well, Mr. Secretary, the committee, as much as possible, wants to keep the word, the policy that we gave the whole world in 2001 when we passed the PIRA into law. In other words, hindi na papasok ang government dyan. They're not going to. That's why you need special powers now, because we're not going to allow additional capacity to be built by government or for government to interfere in the free market play of competition between generators. No, we did that in the gasoline and diesel industry. Although we will get all of these protests in the streets every once in a while, we've allowed it to happen, and it's been doing well. I think Mr. Canapi used to be, you're still with Shell, no? So, may sisigaw dyan. Okay, I mean, you know, pero minsan wala tayong magagawa. Itataas lang nila ang presyo sa Dubai or sa Saudi Arabia, the whole world gets pneumonia. But still, it has worked for us. Now, then we attracted all the new players to come into the industry and to build whatever type of plant they want that their market studies show will be a reasonable return. And the whole underlying rule is there will be no rich uncle that we had to compete against. Because if I'm competing against a fellow with a rich uncle, that rich uncle can subsidize him, and I'll have to be selling below cost. And I don't want to get in that business. These are long gestating projects, and these are long payback requirements. And I want the government to stick to that as much as possible, because it's very easy for government to say, kumatay na special power, we can solve that. Sure, we can. Technically, we can. Operationally, we can. We can take money, 10, 20 billion out of the Malampaya Fund and say, eto, never mind the cost. But we're trying to play within the rules that Congress originally set in 2001. And the moment we come in with political solutions, then it becomes a disaster as far as the economics of the industry is concerned. Like right now, Mr. Secretary, the mere fact that we're announcing we have shortages, just showing the whole world that these guys can't even handle their affairs properly. We had a huge shortage in 1991, and So Congress, of course, naturally passed the Emergency Electricity Crisis Act, giving government a blank check to buy without bidding, without to buy power on a take or pay basis. And boy, was that abused. We complained about it already in 95, 96. The World Bank warned us already in 94 that we would have an oversupply and that we would be facing political problems. I still have that letter of the World Bank. And Ramos didn't pay attention to it. He kept on signing. So we're not going to go through that again, because I'm going to get hanged by the people. I mean, they're going to say we went through it once and you're doing it again. That's why the committee has to be as careful as possible in trying to determine whether the options being asked by government is necessary at this time. That's where our decision will have to be made, and we'll have to justify it also, no? That's why we're always asking for facts and figures, because we like to do the mathematics, the arithmetic, and determine with the help and the guidance. And it's been you've been all very helpful to the committee, and we're really grateful for that, of all the stakeholders who are willing to share their ideas. So I hope you understand that that's where the committee, and particularly the chair, is coming from, because I participated rather thoroughly in the crafting and the passage of the original, that's the only of the EPIRA in 2001. And we've always been resisting political solutions when economic problems can work themselves out. That's why I still need that a meeting with the ERC to explain the secondary cap, because there's maybe it might be a little bit misleading, but to me, a 6 peso cap is you're telling the peakers, wag na kayo magpatayo ng peaking plant. Di ba? And here we're already going to be allowing a 14 peso charge, a 16 peso per kilowatt hour charge, but we're keeping a secondary cap at 6. So what on earth is the WESM for? Di ba? That puzzles me. So, does anybody want to make? Yes, Mr. Sabrino.
Mr. Chair, I would not like to question the wisdom.
Would you identify your group,
First,
Mr. Salvino?
I am Felix Servino po, a retired power generation engineer po, and I also work for the industry for more than 26 years. Pero hindi po dito sa Pilipinas, sa abroad po ako nagtrabaho. I would not question the wisdom of this joint resolution being asked by the DOA, but although we consumers will be the one to shoulder any other additional expenses that we will incur on this resolution if it is approved. But I just would like to know why we have now reached this imminent energy crisis, when in fact in 2008 the government has already an updated power development plan, and determining that the country will need by 2017, the country will need 4,100 megawatt by 2017. And it is broken down as, for Luzon, we need additional 3,000 megawatt. For the Visayas,
Mr. Servino, we know all that.
yeah.
May we have your
but
point?
how come that we are
You're
now
asking, how did we get to this?
No, I would like to address this to this.
No, you may not address the secretary.
Yes.
You can only address the chair.
Yeah. No, I mean the secretary may be the one to answer this question. I would like.
Well,
to,
perhaps you
yeah.
might be able to corner the secretary one of these days and
Yeah.
and ask him.
Bakit dumating tayo sa crisis na ganito? Mayroon na tayong plano.
Yan po ang tinatanong ninyo.
Opo.
Paano tayo nakarating ulit
Oo,
dito?
paano
Na-crisis
tayo
na tayo 20
Oo.
years ago, tapos na.
Ibig sabihin, natulog tayo within how many years? bago
Yes,
natin
that's-
ito inaksyonan.
As a consumer, you certainly have every right to complain.
Yeah.
And but I think the secretary will be able to answer that. Are there any other comments, additions to the record? Because our next meeting will be already on a technical working group basis, so it's easier it will be less formal, and it'll be easier for us to get some other kinks ironed out if there will be any more kinks. There being none, I hereby adjourn this hearing of the... No, I will not adjourn, just in case certain members may want a full hearing, and many of them are out of town visiting their provinces during the break. So I will merely suspend this hearing, but just give you advance notice that the next if I call for it, it will probably be a technical working group type of meeting. Thank you so much for coming, all of you.